Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me this morning. We're going to do some, we have a visitor. We're going to do some movement today, some breathing and some moving, a little bit of stretching. This will probably be a little bit more invigorating than the last morning routine I've done for you folks. Go ahead. To begin, being a little more invigorating, there might be some aspects that require a little bit more physical exertion. So please do yourself a favor and just listen to your body. If anything I present feels a little outside of your zone of comfort today, then listen to your body, make good choices, and if ever it feels like it's a little too much, just do a little bit more of whatever we were just doing right before that, or whatever you want to do, anything that you know works for you. We're going to start off by checking in with our breath. We'll do this from a seated position, then we're going to lay down and go through kind of all the orientations, lying, quadruped, standing, and then we'll finish with another breath practice. So to start off, we're going to give ourselves a little tactile feedback with our hands. So once you get upright, taking your thumbs and kind of putting it in the soft spot between the top of your pelvis and the bottom of your ribs behind you. And then your index finger, giving yourself a little squeeze in the front, again below the ribs and above the pelvis. And the idea here is just to kind of set the pattern of our breath. So we're going to have the mouth closed with the tongue in contact with the roof of the mouth. And that there should be some intention around that contact, but not like, strenuous, not force, just like connection. Almost like your tongue is a retainer filling up the space of the roof of your mouth. And the idea of these, we have 4 contact points here that you're creating with your thumbs and your index finger. Ideally, we're going to push our breath down to these points and think of them spreading very evenly. So again, with the mouth closed, the crown of the head reaching away from the tailbone reaching away from the crown of the head. Let's begin our breath in through the nose, into these 4 points, and then out. And for these first few cycles, I want you to rest your attention on what that experience is at these 4 points. So see if you can notice if there's any asymmetries, if there's one of these quadrants that you feel is getting less of a push from your breath. And see if you can do anything about that. Can you create an evenness of spread, an evenness of pressure in all 4 quadrants? Now, in the beginning of this practice, we're looking for a fairly even meter today, meaning I would say try to make your inhale at least 4, and then just match your exhale to whatever the inhale is. And if you want to add an audible sound by restricting your throat, like an ujjayi breath, if that's familiar to you, then by all means go for it. But think of inhale 4, maybe 5 or 6, but then matching the exhale, keeping your attention on these 4 points. So pressing out with your inhale in a very 3-dimensional fashion. And now ideally, bringing your hands back to your knees or your lap, continuing that pattern. So can you breathe as if that feedback is still there. And we're going to do this for a few more cycles. Just setting the tone for the day. Breathing with intention, purpose. And let's get one more. And then allow your breath to normalize to its natural pace. Maybe letting go of all the structure around your breath. And just notice what just a couple minutes of intentional breathing has created for you. Any sensations in the body. Just noticing what's alive in you. Okay, so let's transition to a lying position, and we will start on our back today. And we're going to have the knees bent with the feet around shoulder width apart. And just check in with how this feels. So notice the shape your spine is in relative to the ground. Notice the contact points. Maybe making a little bit more length in the spine, like the back of the neck lengthening to the wall behind you. And let's go through some gentle movements here. So first, just letting the knees fall to one side, but in a controlled fashion here. So maybe only about halfway down. So you're not really letting go of your legs. Just a real light windshield wiper motion here. Notice the sensation around the tailbone and the pelvis, how it might feel against the ground as you move to one side compared to the other side. Forming no judgment about the difference and just noticing. Now bringing the knees into the chest, giving yourself a little squeeze, creating a little compression, and rocking side to side there. At first, keeping the head on the ground still. Just creating a little pressure. Continuing to lengthen the spine as you do this. And now tucking the chin a little bit and lifting the head up. Squeezing yourself a little tighter as you rock side to side. Giving yourself a little back massage on the ground there. Okay. Letting the feet come back down, the head come back down. Again, feet are about shoulder width apart. We're going to be going through some hip extension here, some bridging. Putting your hands wherever you'd like. They could be palms up. They could be palms down. You could have your hands on your chest. But wherever they are, think of drawing the shoulders into the ground a little bit. So there's a little bit of intention with that connection. So not high effort here, but just a little purpose put into their position. And then rooting into the feet. So start to feel your feet push into the ground. And then allowing the hips to extend up. Holding it for a moment. Coming back down and repeating. And let's try to move with the breath here. Nice and controlled. Try not to flop. And getting a little squeeze at that finishing top position. Kind of squeezing the muscles of the bum, reaching your tailbone up to the sky. Notice if the chin starts to lift away from the sternum, reinforcing the length in the back of the neck, maintaining the head position on the ground. On the next repetition, we're going to stay in that elevated position and take a few breaths here. Think of the same 4-quadrant breath we were working on earlier. Can you apply that to this orientation? A little trickier. One more. And rest. All right, now we're going to do a slightly more advanced version of that bridging. We're going to be moving to a single leg. For some folks, if this is too challenging, you can just do more of the 2-leggers. Bringing your feet a little bit closer so they're more like a hip's width. And we're going to do this one at a time. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to connect in the front of the body. So with the right arm down by your side, take the left hand and the right knee and bring them together. So there's a little purpose behind this connection here. So there's an honor code here. You're actively pulling the knee into the hand, but you're letting the hand kind of win the battle, and the hand is pushing into that knee. The ankle is going to be flexed, so the toes to the nose on the rising leg. Now connect that left foot into the ground, rise up. Try to get the same amount of hip extension that you did with 2 legs. Come on down and go ahead and switch. So the left arm comes down, connect the right hand and the left knee, drive through the ground with your right foot to extend, and at your own pace, just moving from one side to the other every rep, taking your time. Think of moving with control here, as if you could stop anywhere along the way if you'd like. Oop. I'm outside. I think I have a bug crawling on me. And then when we approach the last set here, the last rep of each side, just going to add a little extra hold at the top. So with the left hand on the right knee, just squeeze a little bit harder at the top, pushing that left foot in the ground, pulling the right knee into the left hand, pushing the left hand into the right knee, and relax. And then one more extended hold on the other side, right hand and left knee connecting, and right foot pushing through the ground, and hold, and relax. All right. So we're going to go ahead and flip over now onto the belly. And putting one hand on the other, the forehead on the hand, getting your spine nice and long. So take a moment, reach the crown of the head and the tailbone away from each other, lengthening the legs behind you. And then on your next breath, going to be lifting the head up. Let's keep the gaze down for now. And putting it down, up. And just moving with your breath. Again, control, as if you could stop anywhere along the way if you would like. A couple more. All right, now we're going to add a little rotation to that. So bringing the hands overhead. We're going to start with the eyes on the right hand. So you're going to lift your head up with the eyes on your right fingers. Lift your right fingers up to the ceiling right above you, keeping your eyes on it. As your hand comes back down, maintain the head up and then reach the left up. So we're starting to twist here a little bit. So we have extension and rotation. If you need to rest and bring your head down between reps, you can do that. Whatever's appropriate version for you. Now you'll feel one hip lighten off the floor. Think of them staying in relationship with each other. Even if the weight comes off, like you're still connected to the ground below you. Let's go one more each side here. And then rest. Coming up into a prone prop position or Sphinx pose here. So from here, it's very easy to kind of get a little lazy here. So let's try to remain very active. So you're going to push your elbows, your forearms, and your hands through the ground, trying to get the crown of the head as far from the ground as you comfortably can have it. The gaze is forward, as if you're really looking off into the distance. And then we're going to start to turn. So trying to keep the crown of the head up and avoiding a drop of the head. Look over your right shoulder. See if you could see your feet. And then moving through to the other side. Trying to remain tall in the posture throughout the entire movement. And then if you'd like, as you look over the right shoulder, go ahead and flex or bend your left knee. See if you can see the bottom of your foot. And then alternating every side there. Just getting a little tug in the front of the body. Staying tall. Last one here. And go ahead and rest, bringing your head down just for a couple breaths. Come back to that three-dimensional breath we were working on earlier. The floor will give you some tactile feedback here. Breathing into the back of the body. And then moving into the quadruped position. So we're going to have the hands under the shoulders, the knees under the hips. And just take a moment to check in here with that breath. Can you fill up the same way from this position? All right, we're going to start to shift our weight by rocking forward and back. Think of pushing the ground away, especially as you shift forward. Maintaining the posture, trying to avoid any collapse in the shoulder or fall of the head. If this bothers your neck to keep the head up, then just bring your head down to the point where it doesn't bother you. So listen to your body here. Now we're going to make this a little bit more strenuous, build a little bit more heat, tucking the toes under. If this is right for you, as you rock, you're just going to bring the knees off the ground just about an inch or so. It's going to dramatically change the effort required. If you can't maintain the posture here or you start to hold your breath, then bring the knees back down. A few more reps here. And then letting the knees come back down. Little recovery here. Knees out a little bit, toes together. Sitting back into a child's pose, making this a little active. Just go ahead and shift your hips side to side while you're in this child's pose. Exploring whatever stretch is there for you. Just very subtle. Coming back to the quadruped position. We're going to be extending our legs. So start off just one leg at a time here, extending the left leg, really reaching the heel through the wall behind you. Eyes stay forward if you can. Hands are pushing through the ground, bringing that knee down, repeating on the right side. Now as you go through this, with just a couple second hold on each rep, notice any lateral weight shift. And what we're trying to practice here is control of the spine. So everything from the head to the tailbone stays relatively constant, kind of fixed in space, only moving really from the hip and knee, trying to avoid any weight shift side to side. On the next one on the left leg, we're going to hold it there, reaching the right arm forward. And then from here, can you breathe into those same 4 quadrants? Much more difficult from this orientation. And then coming down, let's go through that on the other side. The right leg extends, really push through that right arm, reaching the left arm forward, reaching the right heel behind you, and breathe. And coming down, one more child's pose here. This time, a little bit of lateral flexion, so lifting the head up, reaching the hands over to the right, letting the head come down. Bringing the head up, reaching the hands to the left, letting the head come down. We're going to do one more each side like that. Head comes up, walking your hands over. Last one to the left. Okay. We're going to start standing up a little bit here, working through a squat pattern. So back to the quadruped, toes curled under, letting the knees come back up, and just slowly walk yourself back with your hands until you could find an appropriate squat for you. So for some of you, that might be the heels staying up here and the hands staying down. For some of you, a little bit of balancing, might have the heels up and the hands up. And if it's right for you, let the heels come down and try to reinforce the length of the spine here. Check in with your breath. Can you breathe into those same 4 quadrants? Okay, shifting your weight back forward, letting the hands walk out. Walk all the way out into a high plank for a moment, pushing the ground away, getting the legs nice and active, letting the knees bend, walk back to that squat position. Now letting the hands come to the ground, push your hips up, letting the head relax, coming back now to the squat, shifting forward, walking back out to that high plank, back to the squat, pushing the hips up, getting a stretch in the back of the body there. Maybe shaking the head, yes and no. Hips coming down. Last plank here, walking back out. On this repetition, hold it just a little bit longer and bring your attention to your breath. Can you breathe into the 4 quadrants here? creating some intra-abdominal pressure and building some heat. Coming back to the squat for the last time, letting the hips come up, and then going ahead, if you like, grabbing your elbows, getting a nice forward fold, letting the head be heavy. And then any way you'd like, coming forward and finding a final seated position for our final breath practice. I'm going to use a block. You could use whatever you'd like. Now this could be just a nice start your day movement practice. It could also be a bit of a preparation for more strenuous activity, whether it's going for a run, hitting the gym, hitting some weights, whatever is your thing. All right, so let's check in here. We're back to the seated position. And just notice maybe what is it like to hold yourself upright compared to when we did this 25 minutes ago. What has changed just from moving the body a little bit. We're going to check in with those fingers again. So thumbs in the soft spot in your back, index fingers in the side of the belly there. And just notice how this pattern might feel any different than before. Is there a little more freedom? Is there any more ease in filling these quadrants? Okay, so our final breath practice here is one of my favorites. I've heard it referred to as Brahma Pranayama. It's basically a forceful expelling exhale with a breath hold. And we're not going to do a lot of them. I'm going to demonstrate how I do this. And if you're familiar, you could do it, however you're used to. I would just recommend, if you're not familiar with this, just listening to your body. This can definitely create, I would say, a strong sensation in the body or the mind. And hopefully you could just welcome that and see, explore that, see where it takes you. But if it doesn't feel right, just dial it back. Take whatever intensity you're doing and just dial it back. The idea here is a nice big inhale. So belly, chest, and then a slight lift of the head. And then on the exhale, really flexing over, bending over and trying to squeeze out. So it looks like this. And then with all the air out, stacking the spine with that breath hold. And then when you feel like you need to breathe in, opening the nose and letting the air to come back in the belly and the chest, lifting the head, and then repeating. So I'm going to do a couple reps without talking so you can see, and then we'll do it together. Okay, so that's kind of what it looks like. So that was kind of rushed. What I find is usually after a rep or two, the exhale holds become a lot more comfortable to sustain. So I want you to work with your pace. So don't try to follow along with me. Let your breath hold be as long as feels right for you. And we'll do about 5 of these. So let's exhale to prepare, and then inhale. And here we go. A slight chin tuck on the breath hold, a sense of strength as you hold. If you're familiar with holding bandhas on this breath hold, go for it. We're going to do one more here. So if you want to challenge yourself on the time, the duration of the breath hold, here's your chance. Relaxing the posture after your final breath and allowing the breath to find a very natural pace. And every time I practice that pattern, there's always something to notice. There's always sensations in my experience that are worth just paying attention to. So let's take a moment as your breath is finding its natural pace, taking your attention off the breath itself and moving it towards sensations of the mind or the body. And just notice what you feel. I feel a sense of just being alive. Just a liveliness to the mind and body. How nice it is to be alive. I want to thank you all for joining my morning practice today. I'm grateful for your participation and all your support. And going forward, if there's anything you'd like to work on or like to see in these live Thursday sessions, then let Sarah and I know, and we will do our best to accommodate. I hope you all have a terrific day.